If you're choosing between living in Victoria BC and living in Vancouver, the mistake is thinking that it's just a smaller city versus a bigger city decision. It's not. Because on paper, both places look pretty similar. They're both expensive, they're both beautiful, they both have ocean, mountains, mild weather, walkable pockets, and that West Coast lifestyle people move to BC for. But the actual day-to-day life feels completely different. Vancouver feels like it's in the middle of everything. There's more energy, more opportunity, more movement, and honestly, more pressure. Victoria feels calmer, slower, more relaxed, more neighborhood based, and for a lot of people, it feels easier to actually enjoy the lifestyle they moved to BC for in the first place. But that doesn't automatically mean Victoria is better. Because some people move here, love the breathing room, while other people move here and eventually realize they miss the energy, opportunity, and convenience of Vancouver. So in this video, I'm going to go over 7 things you really need to know about figuring out which city actually fits your life, not just which one looks better on a postcard. I'm G, I'm a local realtor based here in Victoria, BC, and if you're looking to buy or sell anywhere in the Greater Victoria area, feel free to call or text me anytime. My info is on the screen. Now let's get started. The first thing you notice when comparing Victoria and Vancouver is not just the size difference, it's the pace. Vancouver feels like momentum. You can feel it when you're downtown, when you're driving through busy areas, and when you're around the SkyTrain. When you're near restaurants, opposite events, towers, and people constantly moving around, there's a certain energy to Vancouver that Victoria just does not have in the same way. For some people, that energy is exciting. You finish work, meet friends downtown, go to a Canucks game, grab late night food, and the city still feels alive after that. There's always another place to go, another person to meet, and another event happening, and there's always opportunity somewhere. That is one of Vancouver's biggest strengths, and it feels like a city where things are always happening. Victoria, it's different. Victoria feels more like a breathing room. You can still go downtown, go out for dinner, meet friends, go to the Inner Harbor, and check out local restaurants. Or you can walk, say, Cook Street Village, head to Oak Bay, or go to Dallas Road, or spend time in different neighborhoods. But the energy is softer. It's not pushing you in the same way. And that is either exactly what you want, or it's going to feel way too quiet. That's the part people need to be honest about. A lot of people say that they want a slower pace, but what they actually want is Vancouver with less traffic, cheaper homes, and fewer people. That's not Victoria. Victoria has its own personality. It's calmer, it's smaller, it's more neighborhood driven, and it's more of a lifestyle focus. And if you're coming here from Vancouver because you're tired of feeling rushed all the time, that can feel amazing. You can go from a meeting to a walk along the ocean pretty quickly. You can live in an area that feels residential and calm, but still be close to restaurants, shopping, coffee shops, and parks. That's a big reason why people fall in love with Victoria. But if you love the feeling of a bigger city, if you like the constant options, the bigger events, the stronger nightlife, and the larger professional scene, and the feeling that there's always something going on, Vancouver may suit you better. This is why when comparing, it's not as simple as just saying Victoria is smaller, so it's worse, or Victoria is calmer, so it's better. It depends on what kind of energy you want around you every day. Vancouver gives you more movement, Victoria gives you more space to breathe, and that difference shows up in almost every other part of life. Now, number 2, let's talk about money, because that's usually one of the biggest reasons people compare the two cities. And I want to be clear, Victoria is not cheap. Sometimes people from Vancouver look at Victoria and assume it's going to feel affordable because it's smaller and on the island. But that's not really how it works. Victoria is still one of the more expensive places to live in all of Canada. And if you come here expecting massive bargain, you may be disappointed. The better way to think about Victoria is not that is it cheap, it's that your money may buy you a different lifestyle. That's the key. In Vancouver, especially in the more central areas, a lot of people feel like they're paying a huge amount just to stay close to the action. Maybe that means a condo, less space, more density, more traffic, or a long commute if they want more room. And for some people, that trade-off is worth it. If your career, social life, your friends, family, and daily routine are all based around Vancouver, then paying more to stay there can make sense. But for other people, the math starts to feel different. They look at what they can buy in Vancouver, then they look at what they can buy in the Greater Victoria area, and they start asking a different question. Not which city is cheaper, but where would my life feel better for the money I'm spending? That's where Victoria can become really interesting. Maybe instead of a smaller Vancouver condo, you can consider a townhome in the Greater Victoria area. Maybe instead of feeling completely priced out of detached homes, you can look at areas like Langford, Colwood, View Royal, and certain parts of Saanich, Esquimalt, even Central Saanich, or other areas depending on your budget. Maybe you're not getting a mansion or a bargain, but you may be getting more space, a quieter street, better access to nature, or a home that fits your next stage of life better. That's what pulls people here. It's not always the idea of saving money. It's the idea that the money that you're already spending might create a better day-to-day life. For example, someone living in Vancouver might be spending a huge amount just to have a condo in a good location. Maybe they love that. Maybe it works perfectly. Maybe someone else might be sitting in that same condo thinking, I barely use the city the way I thought I would. I'm tired of the pace. I want more space, I want a calmer routine, I want to be closer to parks, water, without feeling like everything is a mission. For that person, Victoria might make a lot more sense. But the warning is this: do not move to Victoria expecting it to solve every affordability problem. If your budget is tight in Vancouver, it may still feel tight in Victoria. If you want a detached home in a premium Victoria neighborhood, that can still be very expensive. If you want ocean views, walkability, character, great schools, and a central location, you're still going to pay for that. So the real advantage is not that Victoria is cheap. The advantage is that Victoria may give you a better lifestyle trade-off, and that is completely a different way to think about things. Number 3, transportation is another area where the two cities feel very different. Vancouver is clearly stronger if you want to live without a car. The SkyTrain alone changes the way people live. You can get to downtown, connect to different areas, commute to work, go to events, get to the airport, and move around much more easily than you can in Victoria. Vancouver also has more density, more frequent transit in many areas, and more neighborhoods where walking, biking, and transit can genuinely replace driving. That is a major advantage. If you're someone who does not want to own a car, Vancouver will probably feel easier. Victoria is different. There are parts of Victoria where you can live a very walkable lifestyle, such as downtown, James Bay, Fairfield, Fernwood, parts of Oak Bay, and some parts of Saanich that can work really well depending on where you need to go. But once you expand into the Greater Victoria area as a whole, a car becomes much more useful. If you live in Langford, Colwood, View Royal, Central Saanich, North Saanich, Broadmead, or other more suburban areas, having a car can make life way easier. And this is where some people get surprised. Victoria is smaller than Vancouver, so they assume getting around will always be simple. But smaller does not automatically mean transit is better. Victoria can be easy to move around in because the distances are shorter. But it can also be frustrating because the region has grown a lot, and some of the roads were not built for the amount of traffic we now have. If you live in Langford and commute to downtown Victoria at peak times, you will feel it. It's not Vancouver traffic, but it's still traffic. And the frustrating part is that it's different. Vancouver traffic feels like a big city congestion. Victoria traffic feels like a smaller region trying to handle more growth than the road system was designed for. That matters because if you move here expecting no traffic, you're going to be annoyed. But if you move here from Vancouver and you're used to crossing bridges, dealing with major congestion, planning around traffic constantly, and feeling like every trip takes longer than it should, Victoria may still feel much easier overall. The difference is the lifestyle around transportation. In Vancouver, you may have stronger transit, but you may also deal with heavier traffic, more parking challenges, and more big city friction. In Victoria, you may need a car more often, but your daily life can still feel more manageable because the region is smaller, and a lot of the things you need may be closer. So this point really depends on how you live. If transit is a huge priority, Vancouver wins. If you're comfortable driving and you value a smaller, more manageable region, Victoria can be a great fit. But either way, don't ignore transportation, because the wrong commute can ruin even the nicest city. Number 4. This is one of the biggest differences between living in Victoria and Vancouver. Victoria is on Vancouver Island. Obviously, everyone knows that. But not everyone thinks about what that means for everyday life. When you live in Vancouver, you're connected to the mainland. You can drive to Whistler, Seattle, the interior, the Fraser Valley, the Okanagan, or other parts of Metro Vancouver without need to plan around a ferry. When you live in Victoria, there is water between you and the mainland, and that changes things. For some people, that separation is part of the appeal. They like that Victoria feels a little removed. They like that the island has a different pace, and they like that it feels calmer, less tied into the rush of the mainland, and it almost creates a psychological boundary. You come back to the island and it feels like you're stepping out of the bigger city intensity, and for people who are craving a slower lifestyle, that can be a huge positive. But for other people, the ferry can become annoying fast. Not because the ferry is always terrible. Sometimes it's beautiful, sometimes it's easy, and sometimes it feels like part of the West Coast experience. But when you rely on it, it's different. It's the bookings, the waiting, the cost, the drive to the terminal, and the risk of delays. The feeling that you can't just spontaneously drive to Vancouver and come back whenever you want. If your family is in Vancouver, and if your friends are there, your business is there, and if you travel a lot, you are constantly going to go back and forth. That ferry factor becomes a real part of your lifestyle. And this is something people can overlook when they visit Victoria. They come for a weekend, take the ferry, enjoy the views, walk around the inner harbor, maybe go to Dallas Road or Oak Bay and think, this is amazing. And it is amazing. But visiting the island and living on the island are not the same thing. When you live here, the ferry is no longer part of the vacation, it's part of the logistics. So the real question is, how connected is your life to the mainland? If most of your work, family, friends, and future opportunities are still in Vancouver, then Victoria may still feel disconnected. But if your life can fully shift to the island, that separation might actually be what you want. For some people, the ferry is a barrier. For others, it's a buffer. And that difference can completely change how you feel about living in Victoria. Number 5. This is one area where Vancouver has a clear advantage for a lot of people. Vancouver has a bigger economy. That means more companies, more industries, corporate offices, networking, events, more career paths, and more options to move around professionally. If you're in tech, finance, film, marketing, business, startups, or anything where being in a bigger city helps, Vancouver may be the stronger choice. There's just more scale. And for someone who's ambitious, career-focused, or still building their professional life, that can matter a lot. Victoria has opportunities too, but the job market is smaller. There's government, healthcare, education, tourism, tech, trade, small businesses, real estate, and professional services. A lot of people have great careers here, but it does not have the same depth as Vancouver. And that's where people need to be careful. A calmer city is only better if your income and career can still work. If you move to Victoria, but take a major pay cut, struggle to find the right job, or feel limited professionally, then the lifestyle may not feel as relaxing as you hoped. Stress follows you. Even if the scenery is nicer, that's why Victoria can be a perfect fit for certain people. Remote workers, people who already have stable income, people in healthcare or government, business owners who don't need a massive city, or retirees or semi-retirees. People who are choosing lifestyle more than career acceleration. For those people, Victoria can be incredible. Because if you can bring your income with you, or if your work fits the local economy, then you may get the best of both worlds. A calmer lifestyle without sacrificing too much professionally. But if your career depends on bigger city opportunity, Vancouver may still be better. This is one of the reasons I don't like when people frame the question, which city is better? Because better depends on what season of life you're in. If you're trying to build quickly, network heavily, switch jobs, scale your career, and be surrounded by more opportunity, Vancouver has the edge. If you already have income stability and you want your life to feel less rushed, Victoria may be the better fit. Vancouver gives you more opportunity, Victoria gives you more balance, and depending on your situation, either one can be the smarter choice. Number 6. This is where Victoria really shines. Vancouver has an incredible lifestyle on paper. Stanley Park, the seawall, beaches, mountains, restaurants, concerts, sports, nightlife, shopping, and world-class scenery. It's one of the most beautiful cities in the world, but there's a difference between what a city offers and how easy it is to actually enjoy those things. That's where Victoria has a real advantage. Victoria may not have as many options as Vancouver, but the lifestyle can be easier to access. You can go for a walk along Dallas Road, you can head to Willows Beach, you can hike Mount Doug, you can grab a coffee in Cook Street Village, and then you can bike the Galloping Goose. You can spend time in Oak Bay, Sydney, Esquimalt, Saanich, or if you want to head to the West Shore without feeling like every outing needs a huge production. That word easy is important. Victoria is not perfect. It's not cheap, and it can still be busy. But for a lot of people, daily life feels easier here. The beach feels easier to get to, the trails feel easier to access, and the neighborhoods feel easier to enjoy. Plus, you have the pace of life, which feels easier to live with. In Vancouver, there might be more to do, but there can also be more friction. More traffic, more crowds, more planning, and more parking issues. Plus the cost and the competition for space. So even though Vancouver technically has more, you might not always use more. Victoria has less, but you may actually enjoy it more often. That's a huge distinction. Think about a regular Saturday. In Vancouver, you might have endless options, but you may also have to think about traffic, parking, reservations, costs, crowds, and how long will it take you to get there and back. In Victoria, a good Saturday might be much simpler. Coffee in the morning, a walk by the ocean, a local market, a hike, dinner somewhere casual, and home without feeling drained. For some people, that sounds boring. For others, that sounds exactly like the life they want. That is the whole point of this. Victoria is not trying to compete with Vancouver on volume. It competes on ease. If you want endless options, Vancouver wins. If you want a lifestyle that feels easier to actually live, Victoria may win out. Now, point number 7. So after all that, which one is actually better? I think the answer depends on what kind of life you're trying to build. Vancouver is probably better if you want more energy, more opportunity, stronger transit, bigger events, more restaurants, more career options, and more urban lifestyle. It is better fit if you want to be in the middle of things. And it's the better fit if your career or social life depends on the mainland. It's also the better fit if you love the big city feeling and you don't want to say give it up. Victoria is probably better if you want more calm, more breathing room, more access to nature in your everyday life, a smaller city feel, and a lifestyle that feels less intense. It's a better fit if you're tired of the pace of Vancouver. It's a better fit if you want your day-to-day routine to feel easier. And it's a better fit if you want to be close to the ocean, parks, trails, and neighborhoods without feeling like you're constantly fighting the city around you. But here's the most important thing. Do not choose Victoria just because you're tired of Vancouver. Choose Victoria because you actually want Victoria. There's a big difference here. If you're burned out from Vancouver, Victoria can feel amazing at first. It feels slower, cleaner, quieter, easier. But after the honeymoon stage is over, you need to actually like the lifestyle you have here. You need to be okay with fewer big events. You need to be okay with smaller job market. And you need to be okay with the ferry, with the city feeling quieter, because those things are not temporary. That's part of the trade-off. And the same thing goes the other way. Don't choose Vancouver just because you're scared Victoria might be too small. If what you really want is a calmer life, more nature, less pressure, and more breathing room, Vancouver may keep giving you things you don't actually need while taking away the peace you're looking for. So the better question is not which city is better. The better question is which city matches the version of life you actually want. Because Vancouver gives you more. Victoria gives you more space to breathe. And depending on where you are in life, either one can be the right answer. So, if I had to simplify this whole comparison, I say this. Vancouver is better for energy, opportunity, transit, variety, and big city living. Victoria is better for a calm lifestyle, nature, breathing room, and day-to-day livability. Neither city is perfect, and Vancouver can feel exciting, but also intense. Victoria can feel peaceful, but also limited depending on what you're used to. And that's why this decision really comes down to what fits your lifestyle best. Now, if you think about moving from Vancouver to Victoria, or you're comparing the two and trying to figure out where you should buy, feel free to reach out to me anytime. I help people buy and sell all across Greater Victoria. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Doesn't matter if you're early on in the process, I'm happy to chat, happy to help. Whether that's 3 months away, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, give me a call or text anytime. I'm G, my info's on the screen. And if you enjoyed the video, drop a like and drop a comment about any questions you may have or things you need to know or anything you like or don't like about Victoria or Vancouver, and subscribe for future videos I do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.